Hi, class. I think I found some fixes for the audio problem. I hope you can hear me. We're going to continue with Mission Demolition game. Try to get where we left off. Class. We had created a projectile script. In our projectile script, we created a projectile instance. It's a singleton. We set up some variables to control that. We created a C# property, a setter and that allow us to share that game object information with other classes within our application. Our property is named POI, and we're using the underscore POI private variable for that information set up in that way. Now, whenever somebody asks to set the point of interest, we'll make sure giving us a good value. And then we'll add that point to our list of interests. So here are all of our points that we're setting up on our line points list. Add points method adds points to that list. Right now, we have an error where we're accessing an item in our Slingshot that's not yet available to us. So here's our now we set up another property here for point. It only has a getter. It's read only. Access of last point list. In our fixed update method, we're checking on our point of interest for our camera. So we're continuing to follow a projectile. Set our point of interest. Okay, so we have that script all done. Let's work on our Slingshot. Update it so that we for our Slingshot, first thing we're going to do is set up a private variable that is static. So again, this will be a singleton. And this is going to be an instance of our Slingshot. And we're going to name it S, singleton. Now, we've got some other data fields that were already here in Slingshot script. We're going to add one more in this set vector area. We want a private rigid body. That we're going to name projectile. Now again, in our set and inspector variables, we're going to add a property. Notice it's going to be a static property. There's only going to be one of them, no matter how many instances we have of projectiles. We're only going to have one launch POS with the variable. In our property, we're going to allow of this variable. If we do not have a current instance, we're going to return otherwise, we'll return the launch of our Slingshot. Now we also need to check awake method. In our awake method, we're going to set our singleton S variable to this instance. Now our property here that's private only has instances of our slingshot would be able. And so we set up public property to allow. It looks like it should be in that instance. I will leave there. All right, I'm going to save everything. Return to Unity. Try our game. That's a trail. Did we turn? Never gets done moving. No. Okay. I'm going to check out. Okay, hi class. I'm going to try using Zoom and see if the audio issues are better. In a video that's just not really something that you can hear, we created a new script called goal. Let me show you the goal script. Now in our goal script, we have a static Boolean variable, goal met. This variable will be addressable throughout our game because it is public. We created an onTrigger enter method that expects a collider parameter of what object we collided with, this being our goal object itself, the green square on our castle. So if it's hit by something, that green square, we're going to check to see if what it was hit by was a projectile. If it was so, a projectile, we're going to change our Boolean to true, that our goal has been met, and we're going to update our material on our green goal there to just set it to a little bit of a brighter green so that we can see that change. I'm going to delete the update method from our script and save. I'll do a save all. And then in Unity, I want to make sure that my goal script is associated with my goal prefab, my goal script. Okay, so that's ready to go. Now we'd like to create some additional castles. So again, what I had done is renamed our original castle in our hierarchy to castle_0. I dragged that into the project pane to create a prefab and deleted it from our hierarchy screen. Now I'm ready to duplicate that castle. I'll create castle 1, and castle 1 I'm going to put out on the scene for a moment so that I can customize it. I'm going to create kind of a tall building like they show in our textbook. See if I can do that. Drag these together. I think I'm going to delete a bunch of stuff. It's going to gripe at me. One more. And then I'm going to duplicate this. Give me all of you. And duplicate it again. And copy that up. And then I think I'll duplicate this whole thing. Oops, I didn't want to get an extra camera. Duplicate. Now I want to set these kind of close to each other and then put our goal right in the middle. There, that looks good. That's a good building. Now this is what I want my castle 1 to look like. Put that a little bit closer together. Okay, so I'm going to select castle 1 in my hierarchy and drop it on my prefab to make sure my prefab has been updated. And then I should be able to delete it from my hierarchy. Now I can copy that again, duplicate it, and create another castle. Let's see, I'll put this one in my scene. And they have a really wonkety one. Let's see what they did. And looks like I've got an extra there anyways, huh? Start deleting some things. I have a few layers of some of those things. Might be hard to destroy my castle. My duplication seems to have really been effective. Now I'm going to create the rest as kind of a scattered mess down here. Sort of a stacky castle. Okay, so now again on castle 2, I want to select it in my hierarchy and drop it on my prefab to update that thing. There we go. So now we have some castles. I want to delete this last one from my hierarchy. And I'm going to do some saving. Now we want to add our UI to the screen. So let's add a UI text object. And we're going to name this UI text underscore level. Now, some settings here. 10, -10, 0. We want our width to be 256 by 32. Very close. Raw edit mode. We want our pivot to be 0 and 1. We want our rotation to be 0, 0, 0. Our scale to be 1, 1, 1. Check our anchors. We want all of the X positions to be 0 and the Y positions to be 1. Our text should say level, 0 of 4. We can change our font to bold. We'll make it a little bigger, about 28, quite a bit bigger. Wrap, truncate. That looks good. Now let's add another text object. This text object is going to be named UI text underscore shots. We want our position to be -10, -10, and 0. We want our width to be 256, height to be 32, anchors to all be 0 in our X position, and 1 in our Y. Rotation, all 0, scale, all 1. Now our text, we want to say shots taken, 0. Arial, bold, 28. That should be all that we need to change for our texts. Let's use some buttons. We've never done any buttons before, so let's add a UI button. Now this first button, let's name it UI button underscore view. Our settings for our button, we want it to be 0, -10, and 0. We want our width to be 160, our height to be 30. Our anchors look good for our X position, but set your Y position to 1. There we go. And then our rotation, scale, Looks good. So far, so good. All right, let's add some things for our on-click. So we want to add to this list. We want something to happen when somebody clicks this button. What do we want to happen? Well, only when we're running it. We want to switch our views. So let's see. What we want here is Mission Demolition, switch view. Oh, it says to ignore those settings for now. So let's ignore those settings for now. Okay, so we're looking for the UI button, the disclosure triangle. Here we go. Next to UI button view in the hierarchy. There's the hierarchy. And here's our text property. Let's click on that. Now for our text property on our button, we can control some things. Check our settings. We want it to be Arial, bold, 16. All the other settings appear okay. All right, let's save that scene. We've added our UI components. We want to now create a camera location where we can see both the slingshot and the castle. So let's create a new empty game object. And we want to name it View Both. Remember, we had that problem and have moved our castle closer, so we might have to move it further away. Now let's set our transforms here to position 25, 25, 0, rotation 0, 0, 0, scale 1, 1, 1. So this is going to be a point of interest for the camera when we want to see the castle and the slingshot. Let's create a new C# script then. I'm going to go into my scripts folder and create a new C# script. This will be Mission Demolition. So this will be our game controller. And I don't know why when I press enter, it opens Visual Studio for me, but not on the script I'm looking at. Okay, in our Mission Demolition script, we're going to add a namespace to our using list, a UI namespace and class. Now we're going to create what's called an enum, which is just a kind of a list of values. So we can use these values within our program in many ways. Our values are going to indicate different modes of our game. We're going to have idle, like when we're just sitting, playing, and the end of a level. So each of these are now enumerated values that have meaning. Idle has been assigned an enumerated value 0. Playing has been assigned an enumerated value of 1. And little end has been assigned an enumerated number of 2 because they're in that order. All right, after our enum then, let's create some variables. First, we're going to have a private static variable holding the instance of our game. Mission Demolition. We're going to call it S for our singleton. And it'll be our game instance. Now we're going to use our header. First, our variables that are set in the inspector. UIT level. Our text object type, of course, starts with an uppercase T. We'll have another text object, UIT shots. Oh, these should be parentheses. That's why everything's so mad at me. Interesting textbook syntax. Alrighty, now everybody should be happy. Okay. Now, if you remember, we set up this information in the text property of our text fields, and we'll be updating those values based on these variables. This text we'll use for our button. We're going to set up a vector3 variable to hold our castle position. Oh good, we won't have to worry about the fact that we've changed that. And then our game object, we're going to have a whole array of castles. Now I want another header. Variables that are set dynamically. We're going to have an integer to hold which level we are in. How far do our levels go? How many shots have we taken? Let's create a game object to be our current castle. Our game mode. Now our game mode is going to take advantage of our enum. So we're going to say by default our mode is idle. And then we're going to have a variable showing. That sets up our follow cam mode. Now we've been working to get all of these things cooperating with each other. So now we should be able to pull all the pieces together. In our start method, let's set our singleton to this instance of our game. Remember, this script will be our game level script. Set our level to 0. Set our max level equal to how many castles we have. It's an array. And then we'll call a method that we haven't created yet, start level. So let's create that method. In our start level method, we're going to get rid of any old castles. Now, do we have any old projectiles? Let's check. We're going to use the find game objects with text method. Oops, I need the game object class though. Find game objects with tag. We want objects because we want to find all of them. Notice if we just use object, we would get the first instance, and we want to find all of the projectiles. Because remember, they just sit there at the castle, so we want to find them all. This also should be the class game object. So this creates an array of game objects, and that array is going to contain all of the game objects that are tagged as projectiles. Now we're going to use that array that we just created with a for each loop. So for each game object projectile that we just placed in our array, we're going to call that game object ptemp and destroy it. So now we should have no projectiles left. So very nice. So now let's set up our new castle. we know we want to use our instantiate method, and we want to create a game object. But we want to look at our whole list of castles, and we're going to use our level variable as an index pointer into that array to know which castle we want to use. Once we've instantiated that castle, let's set its position to our variable that we've created to hold that. We'll set our shots taken equal to 0 because this is our brand new castle. We're going to reset our camera. And we'll have a little bit of development to do there with our switch view. If you remember in our projectile line script, we wrote our clear method so that we could clear out that line. Set our goal met variable. Call our update GUI method that we need to develop. And then set our mode equal to playing. A little bit of work to do, huh? So let me clean this up. And create our update GUI. Now in our update GUI method, we're going to set our text fields here. We want to make sure that our level says the word level, and we're going to add our level variable +1, and then we're going to add the word of enclosed within spaces and our max level variable. So it should say level 1 of 3, 2 of 3, or whatever. And then our shots, we're going to set its text property to say shots taken, :space, and then add our shots taken variable. So as part of our update, let's call our update GUI method so that we'll update that whenever we switch levels, but also every time we have a update call. Within our update method, then we're going to check to see if a level has ended. So if our mode is level end, and our goal Boolean is set to true, we have destroyed that castle. So let's set our mode so that we can stop checking. Use our switch view method to show both. And then we're going to start the next level in 2 seconds. Okay. It's the end of our if statement. Here's the end of our update method. We're going to create a new method now called next level, and then we'll create our switch view method. Our next level method simply increments our level variable. Make sure we haven't gotten to the end of the game. If we have, we'll just start over, right? Because we know they want to play our game more. And then we start our level. And then for our switch view method, our switch view method is going to require a parameter, a string, and we're going to initialize that to an empty string. And the first thing we're going to do is check to see if it's equal to that empty string. If so, we'll grab the text off our button to set what view we're currently in. Now, using this variable that is set to our current text on our button, we're going to do a switch case statement to decide what action to take next. So if it says show slingshot, and we're going to set our follow cam point of interest to null. Say, hey, I need to show the castle. And break. Now, if it already says show castle, then we're going to set our follow cam point of interest equal to our castle. Set our button to say that the next time we would need to show both. And then break. Now, in the case that it says show both, we're going to set our follow cam point of interest equal to our script view both. And we're going to set our button text so that the next time we show the slingshot. Okay, so that's the end of our switch. Now the last little thing that we're going to do is add a static method. And that's going to allow us to increment our shots taken variable basically from anywhere in the game. So that should clean us all up. I'm going to save this. Go to Unity. Here's my button. And maximize. So I'm missing a castle, it looks like. We need our castle array to be built and a few other things that we're missing. So let's get those taken care of. In our slingshot array, I'm sorry, slingshot script, we need that array, huh? Let's find our update method. And in our update method, we want to be in this if statement for our get mouse button up. And right after we set our projectile to null, let's add a couple lines. First, we'll increment that shot fired variable. Set our point of interest to our projectile. Now that causes our line to follow our new projectile when it's fired. Okay, I'm going to save everything here for a moment and switch back to Unity. And on Unity, okay, I'm continuing to try to set up our click event for our button. And so I see if you click on the button in the hierarchy screen and go to the inspector, I'm going to delete this on click event for you to see. So we start with this empty list. Let's add, and I want to leave things set to like off, and then I should be able to choose our scene main camera. I'm going to double click on that. Now, for our main camera, we should be able to choose our scripts, and I see our follow cam and our cloud crafter, but I don't see our new script that needs to also be associated with our camera, and that would be our Mission Demolition script. So I'm going to click on scripts here, close out this preview window so that I can see our main camera and associate that Mission Demolition script with our main camera. Now in my button, I should be able to choose, there we go, our Mission Demolition script. And we would like to run our switch view when somebody clicks our button. Let's make sure that's looking correct. Okay, so now we're going to be calling our switch view method in our Mission Demolition script if somebody clicks on our button. Sounds cool. So let's go to our main camera and double check some other things. And let's find our Mission Demolition script here. And let's set some things. Let's set our castle position to 50, negative 9.5, and 0. Let's set our UIT level. Just to click this. And let's use the same thing with our shots, that we want that to be associated with our shots variable. And our button, we want it to be our button. Choose text from the scene tab. This is the only other one, okay, because that is our button text. Now in your castles, let's set how many castles we want. I only made 3. I have 3 altogether, so I'll set it to 3. Now, once that creates that array for me, I'll press enter there. I can go to my prefabs and put each of my castles into that castle array. There we go. Just build it ourselves. So happy castles. All right. Now let's save that and see what we have. I'm going to run it. Okay. So right now it says my camera is supposed to be showing the slingshot. Seems to be a fail. So let's stop there. And we'll do some debugging. Okay, I did a little teeny bit of debugging, and I saw that in my hierarchy, I had an extra main camera and an extra projectile line from my creation of my castles. So I deleted those. And now when I play, I've got some overlap here with my text. Other than that, things are looking pretty good. Lots of tweaking that I could do for the game. I'm still getting a no reference exception on one of my point of interest references somewhere. So definitely a few little things that I could clean up, But our game is basically done. So let me know if you need any help with anything. I think we're good to go. Thanks.